Hey, what's up? This is TJ. Thanks for joining me. I am back with the Neural DSP Quad Cortex. And a lot of the demos I've heard since the Quad Cortex was originally announced are blaring, awesome, gritty, grindy, high gain tones. Well, this video has got none of those. So if that's what you're looking for, you might want to wait to the next video or look at the one I just did yesterday. Anyway, today I'm going to be focused mostly on clean tones. And I have five presets. Five presets, there you go. And with those five presets, I've uploaded those to the Neural DSP Quad Cortex cloud, so you can download them yourself. And they are all clean type tones, some Fender tones, some Vox-like tones, some funky tones, and a couple more ambient type stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a few samples of those, and I'll quickly go through the Quad Cortex to show you how they were built. If you like the videos that I'm doing here on the Quad Cortex and all the other stuff that I do, you've got to share them, you've got to subscribe. I very much appreciate your support. So let's get started. All right, so what you heard there is a preset I'm calling Clean Plate because it's a clean sound. Clean Plate. Let's start with a clean plate today. The sound you heard is based on a Fender type setup you normally would hear a lot. Let's take a look at that. Well, normally I like to start with the amp here. So the amp we have is a US Deluxe Vibrato. Okay, and the next thing I normally would put in there is probably a cab. All right. So the cab here, I've selected two mics, the Dynamic 57 and a ribbon mic, a ribbon 160. And I've changed some of the parameters in terms of where the mics are placed. So one thing with Quad Cortex is really great. You can actually move those around really, really easily. So I had the 57 right on the cone. And then I had the ribbon mic slightly off-centered. And I have it added a little bit of a distance. Okay, so we can get out of that. So that's a basic amp cab combination, okay? And I've added a compressor in the front, the Opto Comp. All right, not a lot of compression, just 2.7, and just a mild amount just to keep it tamed. Next, here at the end, I've got some gain to add in, the level of that with all the other presets. Now that is on the scene A. Now when I pull in scene B, that's going to add this in here, and that's a tremolo. So I have a basic 5 kilohertz rate on the tremolo, depth, sine wave on the waveform, and it's just a basic type of tremolo sound. Now I should mention the guitar I'm using today is a John Page Classic AJ, and I want to point that out because if you hear a little bit of noise, you might hear it. That's because it's just the single coil pickups. It's not coming from the Quad Cortex. So with the tremolo, that's a beautiful classic type of Fender style tremolo. And I also have a reverb in here. And that's the basic spring reverb. One thing you might look at here that I like to do is, particularly with Fender type sounds, I have the amp and the cab, and then I have the tremolo and the reverb in the middle between them, because that's the way it is on the amp. You see a lot of presets where it's actually after the cab. That's not really correct. In order to get the genuine sound, you want to have those in between. All right, then on C, that being scene C, all right, we've added a chorus. Very subtle. And then on D, added a delay. So that's a basic, clean, pretty sound, very common thing that you would hear in the real world, but now in digital form right here on the Quad Cortex. All right, what you heard just a moment ago was a preset I'm calling Voxy Boxy. Obviously based on a Vox AC30 type of amp, and there are both channels with the amp that I've set up here. You have the top boost channel, and you have the normal channel. And the way I have it set up is the B scene is the normal channel, and the A scene is the top boost channel. And the A scene also has a couple other things involved in it. It has the delay, and it also has a little bit more of the tremolo. Now you'll note here what I've done is I've actually have the compressor in the front, again to give it a little bit of smoothing, and then here I have it split, okay, between the two channels. And then as I go through the both scenes, it'll choose which channel is which that I want to use. So the split comes here, and then you have two pass, both with reverb and as well as the cab. So the reverb is, again, just a spring reverb, because I love springs. And then here is the cab. Now the different cabs for the two different channels have different mics. Here is the dynamic 57 and a condenser on the top row. And here's the 57, but with a ribbon on the bottom row. Then at the end of these two pass, it merges as it goes into row number 3, where I have an EQ. Here I have a little bit of a bump in this 3-band EQ in the mids. And then it goes into the delay. Lastly, I have a gain block if I want to increase the gain, later on when I want to, marry it with other presets to get a average presets for all my set list. So. That's the top boost channel, and the normal channel. Nice, basic, clean sound for a Vox amp. All right, what you just heard is a preset I'm calling Density. Now, Density is really designed to be a little bit more like a rhythmic type of sound, something you might hear from U2's The Edge or something like that. And let's go through it. First, again, a compressor. And then the pass split off here, all right, because here you have two different pitch blocks. And what I've done is I've taken the fine pitch up 7 cents here on the one path, and then down 7 cents here, so you get a nice, beating type of chorus effect without the LFO, the sweep type of effect. Okay, and then it merges back here, goes to the amp, It's a US SPR vibrato. Goes to a cab. Have a condenser mic and a ribbon mic there. Again, the condenser is right on the cones to get a lot of those sparkly highs with that. The ribbons, to catch to the mids and the bottom. All right, now it's going to row 3. So this is row 3 over here. And I have it into a rotary effect, a Leslie style effect, some EQ. Now this is the 8-band EQ. And what I've done here is I'm rolling off a little bit of the highs so it doesn't get too peaky. Ice pick type sounds. Don't want that. All right, there. It splits off one more time. And that way it's feeding the reverb, a modulated reverb, and the ping pong delay in parallel, so it's not getting too mushy by having the, say, delay go into the reverb. All right, it's time to get funky. Now this is really a basic preset that I've created. One of the things, I've always noticed that, you see these presets that have tons and tons of different blocks in there to cover every little bit of basis that you can possibly get. Really, the basic presets are the ones that actually sound good. Hot tip for you. Now, let's take a look at this. Again, I have a compressor on front. Okay, this is a solid state comp, and I really do like this one for this type of really hard type compression. Very, very nice in terms of rhythmic qualities there. And next I have the phaser. With a very slow speed, so it doesn't get a lot of sweep in there. It doesn't override the rhythm that you're playing. The amp is a Freeman 100 and the clean channel, so something a little bit different. And that's going into a 412 cab with a Dynamic 57 mic and a Ribbon 160. All right, again, going to row 3, the EQ. Okay, I just have a little bit of extra bass in there, shelved up. Here again, it splits for the room reverb and just a simple quick delay. Play that funky music. All right, now that was a preset, something I'm calling Mermaids, something a little ambient, something a little bit dreamy, that kind of thing. It's great for, swells and that type of stuff. Great for that kind of thing. Let's take a look at it. The Complementary Compressor. These are really what I like to have, when doing clean sounds. they get it nicely balanced into the mix. Obviously, that's one thing that you're going to want. Now, we're going to have two different modulation effects in a row here. One is a vibrato, and the second one is a chorus. So you're going to get both types of chorus vibrato types effects in series. Now the amp, this is actually a high gain amp that I've rolled the gain all the way down in order to get a nice clean sound. The D-Cell H4, honestly I'm not 100% sure what amp that is, but it is the right channel, or what amp that's tending to model, I should say. For the cabinet, we have a Baga or Bogner Uber cabinet, so that's a 412 cab with the Dynamic 57 mic and the 121 ribbon. Again, going back to row 3, coming down to here, now you'll see I have 3 different pitch blocks and it's routed around them. So let's take a look at the first one, and that's a poly Octaver. Now I have the octave at about 68% or so, so you're going to get a subtone with it, and then that's driving into, again, the fine pitch, similar to the other preset that I had before, where this is pitched up 7 cents. On the B path, then you have the fine pitch again. It's down to 7 cents, so you'll get that chorusing effect without the LFO. And then on the B path, it has its own delay. Merging back into that being a tape delay, I should say, merging back into that, it all goes into the reverb and into the output. I think it sounds swell. All right, well, that's it. Some nice clean tones on the Quad Cortex. Take a break, count to 10, feel it. Ah, that's nice. All right, if you like the videos that I'm doing here on the Quad Cortex, you got to share them, you got to subscribe. I very much appreciate your support. You can check out tjontheroad.com for lots more things. And if you want those presets and the captures that I'm going to be doing soon, you can go to the Quad Cortex app, search TJ on the Road, you'll find me there, and you can download them for yourself. Next video, I think we're going to compare the Quad Cortex to the Kemper, so that's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks so much for joining me now, and I will see you next time.